All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I've got a story time that was sent in to me about a guy whose stepdad ended up destroying his Xbox to teach him a lesson. I'm using air quotes because obviously all that would do in this situation is piss somebody off, but regardless, it's a pretty crazy story, so without further ado, let's get into it. I'm getting quiet now, laying low when you reach zone, piping down, making out, stack the bread. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I don't have any step-parents. I'm not too familiar with the concept of it. That being said, I can certainly understand why you wouldn't like somebody that's, new in your life, destroying your favorite things. Even if they're old in your life, destroying your stuff's a good way to make somebody not like you. That being said, this story takes place when somebody sent it in to me. Their mom and dad had been, apart for a little bit, and his mom had started dating this guy that was super obsessed with, discipline and hard work. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't have any discipline, life's not really going to go that well for you. If you have no work ethic, life's not going to go that well for you. But this dude was strangely obsessed with it to the point where, he just figured if you weren't always earning a callus on your hand, you're pathetic. And obviously, this was not the life this kid was used to beforehand. He wasn't used to being out in the yard helping cut down trees for 12 hours straight. It just wasn't something he was used to. So they kind of didn't see eye to eye. They disagreed on quite a bit. And one of the things that they would constantly fight on and disagree on was the fact that this kid played video games. And listen, I'm just letting you know, on the off chance any parents are watching this video, it's not insane for people to play video games anymore, all right? I get it, you think it's weird that somebody can play a video game for 4 hours straight, and I get it, that's probably bizarre to you, but this isn't the 1980s anymore. It's not the case where everybody playing video games has no friends and could not muster the courage to talk to a girl if they wanted to. Anyways, this stepdad was basically insistent that this kid's Xbox was the root of all of his problems. It was the reason that he didn't have straight A's. It was the reason he wasn't a millionaire yet, even though he wasn't old enough to have a job. Basically anything that the stepdad didn't like was taken out on video games. So they would argue about it a lot. And one of the other things that they would argue about a lot was the fact that he had a C in this class in school. And literally the rest of his report card was straight A's. He had one C, and the C was because this teacher and him just really did not get along. Not to the point where the teacher was sabotaging his grade or anything, but I think you guys will understand. If you've ever had a teacher that's just kind of got it out for you and doesn't like you, it makes it really hard to do the whole learning thing. It's hard to stay focused in class when it feels like you and your mortal enemy are locked in a battle. Forget paying attention. And on top of that, it's not like they're tossing you any favors when they're grading any of your work. If they don't like you, they're grading you a little bit more harshly than they are the teacher's pet. Anyways, of course, these two arguments ended up combining, and the stepdad was like, the reason you have a C in that class is because of the Xbox, blah, 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 and obviously, he disagreed. Well, one night they were having an argument about him having low grades, and he started saying how his grade point average, if you combined it all, still wasn't that bad. It was literally the only C he's ever gotten, which is probably a fair point, fair enough. I guess if you have straight A's, a C throws things off a little bit, but if they've literally never had problems maintaining good grades before, and then all of the sudden struggle with one class and they're like, whatever, I just don't really like it, me and the teacher don't get along. I feel like picking a fight about it every night at the dinner table is just a little bit unnecessary, But they were fighting about it, and the stepdad said something about how it's the Xbox's fault he has a C in this class. And the kid just decided to respond something along the lines of, actually, it's this douche of a stepdad that I have that makes me have a C in this class. And listen, was that a little bit out of pocket? Absolutely. Was it also kind of funny? Absolutely. And I'll be honest, I bet you yelling at him every day probably has more of an impact on his grades than the Xbox does. Regardless, the stepdad gets incredibly upset at that, and starts talking about how, he doesn't need to be talked to with that disrespect, blah, 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 and how this kid needed to respect him. And that's actually one of my biggest pet peeves on the planet, is when people are like, you have to respect me. Because in my opinion, respect is a two-way road, right? If you respect me, I'ma respect you. That's just the way it should go. But nah, if you're gonna be talking crap, calling me stupid and not respecting me, then like I have no obligation not to roast you, you know? At least that's the way it makes sense in my head. Like if y'all have settled the beef, okay, there's no reason to go stir up the pot again. But in the middle of an argument, if you're calling someone stupid, they're allowed to call you stupid back. You know, there's no need to rehash a bunch of old stuff. But yeah, if you're not gonna respect your stepson and call him an idiot, he's allowed to call you a douche. It's even in my mind. Regardless, that really sets him off. He's like, you really don't respect me, huh? And, you know, another thing that I would say, and I'm not saying the kid was smart to answer this question the way he did. Sometimes you don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. And if your stepson just said, I have a douche for a stepdad, and you and him are constantly fighting, maybe it's not the time to ask, do you respect me truthfully? Because I just feel like no matter what he says, you know it's not going to be an answer that you would like to hear from that question, you know? Anyways, he goes on about like, no, I don't respect you. You suck. If you weren't married to my mom, I wouldn't listen to a word you say, which, you know, brutal to be sure. But I also feel like, I mean, if you weren't married to his mom, you wouldn't listen to a word you say is like kind of fair. If you weren't married to his mom, you wouldn't be his stepdad, right? So you'd just be some dude. Like, why would he listen to you? That's a fair argument. I don't know. If that's really not fair, then I wouldn't know. But hey, that sounds fair. Anyways, the stepdad at that moment freaks out and he's like, this is all the Xbox fault. If you didn't have that Xbox, you wouldn't be treating me that way, which is honestly like a little delusional, bro. I don't think the gaming system has anything to do with this relationship not being good. Anyways, he storms upstairs. So obviously the subscriber storms up after him because he has no clue what the guy's going to do. You know, is he going to go use the restroom, take a shower, destroy his room? Who knows? Regardless, he follows him and he starts walking towards the subscriber's room. So he's like, hey, what are you doing? Don't go in there. Don't go into my room. And he looks at the kid and goes, no, I'm going in your room. This is for your own good. And he opens the door and he walks over to this kid's setup. And, you know, I wanted to make it clear because he made it clear in the message he sent. The stepdad did not pay for the setup at all. Everything he had in that setup was, you know, from his mom or money that he had or like stuff that his dad had given him, you know. Even the Xbox. So the stepdad walks over to his setup and grabs the Xbox. And the way it was underneath one of his monitors, right? And he grabs it and just rips it off the desk, but he pulls it upward. So the monitor that was on top of the Xbox goes like flying off the back of the desk, and his desk wasn't up against the wall, so it falls off the desk and it breaks. And the Xbox, you know, is just in his hands, cords coming out of the wall, the whole thing. And he just grabs the cords and rips it out all angrily, you know? Like, you know, in a sci-fi movie when there's like the ship full of people cryogenically frozen for long-term travel, and like the guy's in there just unplugging everything all angrily. That's the way this dude is taking the power cords off the Xbox, bro. And so he finally has this Xbox in his hand, and the subscriber's yelling at him like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And his mom's there yelling like, put his Xbox back, because, you know, she knows this is not going to end well. And the stepdad's like, no, I'm not putting the Xbox back. This is the reason we're constantly fighting. If he doesn't want to respect me because of video games, then he's not going to play them. And he starts to walk back towards the stairs. And the way that this house was laid out is there was like this like walkway along close to the stairs where like there was a wall on one side and a little half balcony railing thing, you know, where you can like look down into the living room from upstairs. And he walks over to it and he has the Xbox in one hand and he just lifts up and throws it down as hard as he can, straight down. And obviously electronics are not the toughest things in the world, so falling like a floor onto tile is not great for the Xbox. It hits the ground, the casing pops open, stuff's flying everywhere. And like I said, he had thrown it down. It wasn't even like he just let gravity do the work. And he had thrown the Xbox so hard down onto the tile that one of the tiles had cracked. And obviously at that point, this kid is pissed. He's like, you crazy person, what did you just do? That wasn't yours. You're going to be buying me a new one. And even his mom is like, come on, you can't break his Xbox. What's wrong with you? And the stepdad's like, I guarantee you he's going to start respecting me now that he doesn't have those stupid video games to go rely on. And obviously, you know, at that point, he gets sent to his room. He closes the door and he's pissed, bro. Like, as you would be. And he hears the stepdad and his mom arguing in their room. And he's just like, this guy is an absolute douche, you know? He is more affirmed in that belief than ever. I'm just saying, if somebody ever, like, really doesn't like you, really has beef with you, I feel like the worst possible thing you can do is go break a bunch of their stuff. I don't understand how that's gonna earn their respect or make you like you more, you know? Like, oh, you know this thing that you love to do every day after school? Yeah, I destroyed it. You're gonna like me more now, right? No, I'm gonna go with probably not as the answer to that question, you know? I've never really had anyone, like, out here trying to earn my respect destroying my Xbox, but I can assume that would put quite a damper on the situation. Anyways, you know, eventually he hears them start arguing, he goes to bed, he wakes up the next day, goes downstairs, and usually his mom is the one to take him to school, and his stepdad's sitting there at the table, and he sees him, and he just goes, "Where's my mom?" And he's like, oh, you know, she went to work. I'm going to take you to school, though, because I just feel like we need to talk a little bit. And he looks at him and he's like, no, I'm not going with you if you're driving to school. I'll walk. And he literally, like, has his backpack in his hand and just starts walking out the door. And his stepdad's like, you can't walk to school. And he's like, yeah, I am. I'm not going anywhere with you. And he straight up walks out of his house, walks to school. It takes him like 45 minutes, but he gets there. He deals with school that day. He comes out, you know, and usually his mom, like, was there to pick him up from school. Sure enough, stepdad's there, and this time he's way more apologetic. He's like, look, I'm so sorry about last night. I got out of hand. I shouldn't have destroyed your Xbox. I'm gonna get you a new one. I'm gonna replace your monitor. You know, will you just talk to me? And he's like, nope, I'm not going to talk to you, bro. Best of luck, you know. I will appreciate you replacing my Xbox and my monitor, but we're not good, dude. We're not. And he just walked back home. He just didn't get a ride the other way either. And at this point, I think the stepdad's starting to realize, like, oh, crap, this backfired. You know, I thought getting rid of the Xbox was going to increase the respect. But really, it just, you know, made him not like me at all. Which, this is the reality of the situation. Are there times where people play too much video games? Absolutely. The way to go about that is, you know, kind of have a conversation with them about how you've got to cut back a little bit. You don't run into their room and break something that means a lot to them and expect them to instantly be like, you're right, and have earned my respect. If that was the case, then, like, imagine, you know, trying to impress somebody, you just break into their house and smash their most prized possessions, and you're like, why are you not happy with me? I'm trying to impress you. Anyways, he gets home, you know, and both of his parents are waiting there, and he looks at his mom and he goes, I don't know why you keep having to, like, try to have him drive me to and bring me home from school. I don't like him, and until I get my stuff replaced and I have it in writing that he's not breaking any more stuff, I'm just not going to talk to him. And his stepdad's sitting right next to her, and he goes, you're not going to talk to me? And he just doesn't acknowledge him, and he goes straight upstairs, which, you know, if you thought you weren't getting respect before, bro, now he's just straight up pretending you don't exist. If somebody puts you in foster's home for imaginary friends territory, that's how you know you crossed a line. Anyways, usually in these stories that get sent to me, you know, the parent that, like, is married to the step-parent doesn't have the kids back and is like, no, you just gotta get over it. Thankfully, that wasn't the case in this time, because this kid woke up the next morning, went downstairs. There was a monitor, Xbox on the table, and a note from his stepdad apologizing and saying he wouldn't break anything again. Which I feel like, all in all right, would I have the balls to walk in, demand a letter and new electronics? Probably not. But hey, bro, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If somebody breaks your Xbox, nothing wrong with asking for a new one, in my opinion. Especially if it's a situation where they just want you to go back to normal, bro. You're like, listen, man, you destroyed my thing. You gotta replace the thing. Even after that, though, obviously the relationship didn't go back to, like, being great. It wasn't great in the first place, but you tend to trust somebody a little bit less after they break a bunch of your stuff. So to this day, their stepdad is still, like, being incredibly nice to them, which is probably the way that it should be. You know, that should have been that way from the start. But, like, it's like they feel just incredibly guilty about everything that happened, you know, destroying the Xbox, how mad it made them at it. So in a weird way, it did actually end up solving quite a bit of their problems. You know, they still disagree from time to time, but whenever they do disagree, it's a lot less running up the stairs and destroying the Xbox and a lot more, all right, we can agree to disagree, which is the way it should be, bro. I'm just glad this kid's mom had his back. Could you imagine if she was like, that's ridiculous. You have to go get a job now to buy your own Xbox, and we're sending you to military school for not respecting us. Wakes up the next morning. All the other kids at military school are like, yeah, my parents sent me here because they feel like I needed some discipline in my life after I committed Grand Theft Auto. He's like, yeah, my stepdad broke my Xbox and now I'm here. And they're like, wait, what? Is military school still a thing? Like, I feel like that was something that was genuinely a fear for mine when I was little, only because in the show Recess, they were always like, I don't want to go to military school. And before some Karen in the comments, it's like, you don't respect the troops, you're making fun of their school. No, I respect the troops. Military school and the military are not the same thing, okay? Like, real boot camp and military school, not the same. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. And, of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on notifications. If you want to really help out the channel, help the video do better, you could comment the word Xbox down below. It'll just help the video hit recommended. I'd appreciate it. And if you want to check out the intro song, a link's in the description, along with the link to my podcast, the Scuffcast. Or, of course, you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel. Help me out at the same time. I'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, there's another link down in the description. It's going to take you to the merch store. So if you want to fly on over there and get yourself a t-shirt, I definitely would not complain. In my opinion, it's just simply the coolest merch to ever exist. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And hopefully I'll see you guys all next time. I'm out. Peace.